They are more interested in accruing social status from the London bubble than they are at saving this country. And that is a reality about the Tory party. They've completely sold this country down the river. In fact, one minor example that I think will give international viewers a real sense of what I would argue is a betrayal. It was the Conservative Party under Boris Johnson when it was in office that even removed a requirement for companies in Britain to advertise jobs in Britain before they advertise them overseas. They didn't even prioritize British workers within this national economy. They just completely opened the floodgates. And the end result is what you see around us today, which is zero growth, massive amounts of debt, no productivity, declining GDP per capita, while we're also pursuing this net zero madness, closing steel factories across northern England in order to deal with this political vanity project for an elite class that doesn't apparently seem to care about anybody else in this country. So I'm deeply worried about the direction of travel, but the Tory party is not going to change the direction of travel. You know, if an architect demolished your house, you wouldn't invite the architect back to do it again, would you? And I think in the same way, you know, it was the Tories that really demolished Britain. So why on earth would you invite them back to have another go? I think we need wholesale political change.
A 2023 study from the Centre for Policy Studies found that 60% of British voters feel powerless over their country's economic and political direction. This sense of disenfranchisement isn't just emotional, it translates into stagnation, lack of trust in leadership, and declining national morale. Fear of economic decline, cultural erosion, and ineffective governance has become a defining feature of modern Britain. But is this fear justified? Matthew Goodwin, a former professor and political analyst, delivers a scathing critique of the UK's Conservative Party, accusing them of prioritising elite status over national welfare. He argues that Tory leadership, especially under Boris Johnson, has facilitated economic decline by prioritising globalist policies at the expense of British workers. His perspective challenges conventional narratives about conservative governance and raises a crucial question: if the architects of Britain's downfall remain in power, how can true reform ever take place? The central issue Goodwin highlights is the disconnection between political elites and the public. The Tory party, which historically positioned itself as a champion of national interest, has instead pursued policies that weaken national sovereignty, diminish economic security, and cater to global markets. The removal of job advertising requirements in the UK before overseas recruitment exemplifies this shift. The result? A labour market where British workers are often overlooked, contributing to wage stagnation, job insecurity, and growing resentment. Goodwin's critique aligns with the political philosophy of Jean-Jacques Rousseau, who warned that elites often manipulate governance for self-preservation rather than the common good. Rousseau's concept of the general will suggests that when leadership diverges from the interests of the people, democracy erodes. In psychological terms, this fosters learned helplessness, where citizens, feeling powerless in shaping their future, disengage from politics altogether. Studies in political psychology show that when people feel ignored by their leaders, they become more susceptible to populist movements, often seeking radical solutions to systemic failures. Goodwin delivers a particularly striking analogy. If an architect demolished your house, you wouldn't invite the architect back to do it again. This metaphor underscores his fundamental argument: if the Conservative Party has systematically dismantled Britain's economic and social stability, why would the public trust them to rebuild it? His call for wholesale political change suggests that Britain must break free from the cycle of political complacency and demand leadership that genuinely prioritizes national well-being. Goodwin's argument highlights a harsh reality: political elites often serve their own interests, even at the expense of national prosperity. His criticism of Tory policies isn't just about economics, it's about the erosion of trust in democratic institutions. If Britain wants to reverse its decline, it must demand accountability, resist political apathy, and explore new leadership models that prioritize long-term national stability over short-term political gains. What do you think? Do you believe the Conservative Party has betrayed Britain, or is there another explanation for the country's decline? Drop your thoughts in the comments. And if you want to dive deeper into political analysis, check out our latest video on the rise of populist movements. Don't forget to like, subscribe, and stay informed because change starts with awareness.